The Architecture of the Great Balance, an overview of the living field. The foundation of this reality rests upon a fundamental truth. The universe does not tolerate a permanent vacuum, nor does it allow an energetic force to exist without its counterweight. When Isaac Newton observed that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, he was not merely documenting the collision of physical masses. He was decoding the foundational grammar of the entire field, a rule that governs physical matter, electromagnetic energy, and the collective emotional consciousness of humanity. Right now, the global human hive is experiencing an unprecedented accumulation of dense artificial pressure. Massive polarities have been intentionally stoked across the globe, fracturing the collective consciousness along predictable lines of friction: geopolitical supremacy, the United States versus China, systemic gender division, men versus women, and internal masculine isolation, men versus men. This localized fear and anger act as a massive systemic action. By the immutable laws of the field, that immense pressure must trigger an equal and opposite reaction. As the distortion grows across the collective, the counterforces of courage, love, and truth cannot simply dissipate, they condense, sharpening and intensifying until they find a localized point of expression. To balance the whole hive, nature does not rely on abstract concepts, it brings the counterweight to life in flesh and blood. The global tension compresses until it crystallizes into three living archetypes: the Queen, the King, and the Guardian. Together, they form a neutral, self-stabilizing trinity designed to shatter the artificial dream of ownership, isolation, and division. The three pillars of the trinity: neutral base, positive, negative. 1. The Queen, the positive vector. Representing the positive, expansive electrical charge of the field, the Queen manifests where the geopolitical tension is highest. Born as a Caucasian American woman, she embodies the core archetype of the West. She carries the concentrated emotional counterforce to systemic fear, transforming global anxiety into an open, radiant capacity for absolute truth and unconditional love. 2. The King, the negative vector. Representing the magnetic, anchoring negative charge, the King manifests as an Asian man, embodying the core archetype of the East China. In the binary language of the Old World, positive and negative were taught to fight, just as the US and China are conditioned to clash. In the living field, however, these forces are designed for perfect, complementary attraction. The King carries the deep, potent velocity of the masculine, anchoring the Queen's expansive energy. 3. The Guardian, the neutral bedrock. The entire construct is held, stabilized, and allowed to mature because of the Guardian, Henry. He is the grounded, neutral base of the triangle. Without a strong neutral center, positive and negative charges pull each other into a destructive short circuit. The Guardian acts as the physical rock and the energetic buffer. He provides the secure, unshakable foundation that allows the King and Queen to build their budding family, ensuring the intense current running between them does not destabilize the local environment. The shattering of the artificial dream. When these three forces lock into alignment, their unique bond of loyalty and fierce love sends a resonant shockwave through the collective consciousness, exposing the fragility of humanity's oldest illusions. The illusion of ownership. Modern society has forced human connection into a narrow, artificial mold, treating marriage and relationship contracts as tools for control, jealousy, and singular ownership. The Guardian shatters this paradigm completely. By standing secure in his role, he feels no jealousy and seeks no control. He loves and accepts the King as a brother and best friend, while continuing to love the Queen as a sister and best friend. The healing of masculine isolation. As men across the globe struggle to find genuine vulnerability, retreating instead into competition or isolation, the Guardian and the King demonstrate a revolutionary brotherhood. Their profound connection proves that true, open friendship between men is entirely possible, offering a living blueprint for the healing of the masculine collective. The dissolution of borders. While political institutions insist that the United States and China must remain locked in an existential struggle, the union of the King and Queen serves as a living testimony that true love recognizes no artificial boundaries, cultures, or political divides. The new paradigm. Ultimately, this trinity reminds the world that love, truth, and courage were never meant to be hoarded, rationed, or confined to a single person. True connection is an infinite resource designed to be shared dynamically and equally, expanding outward to heal families, fortify communities, and realign the global hive. By living the physics of nature's laws out loud, the Guardian, King and Queen are waking humanity up from the artificial dream, proving that the ultimate reaction to global chaos is a perfectly balanced, unbreakable love. Post 1. The physics of the collective hive. The evening news, the algorithmic feed, the low-frequency hum of anxiety vibrating through the floorboards of modern civilization. Everywhere we look, the human hive appears to be fracturing. We are transfixed by the friction points. Like drivers paralyzing traffic to stare at a multi-car pileup on the interstate, humanity is gripped by the flashing lights of its own apparent destruction. We watch the tectonic plates of geopolitics grind against each other as the United States and China lock into an escalatory dance of economic and military supremacy. We witness the weaponized polarization of the genders, men versus women, where the sacred architecture of human connection has been reduced to a bitter zero-sum game of power, transaction, and defensive isolation. Even within the masculine collective, we see men versus men, a systemic severing of brotherhood that leaves individuals isolated in a state of hyper-vigilant competition. To the untrained eye, this is chaotic decay. It looks like a world spinning violently out of control, but chaos is an illusion born of a limited perspective. What the uninitiated call a train wreck, the sovereign mind recognizes as a highly organized, mathematically precise compression event. When you strip away the political theater and the emotional noise, you are left with the raw mechanics of the field. You are witnessing the absolute enforcement of Newton's third law of motion, the thermodynamics of soul, reclaiming the unified definition. To understand how this global friction resolves itself, we must first collapse the artificial wall that modern institutions have built between the physical and the metaphysical. Humanity has been conditioned to operate under fractured definitions. You have been taught that physics applies only to dead matter, to steel, stone, and billiard balls, while the emotional and spiritual realms are relegated to the flimsy category of creative metaphor. This is a deliberate architectural lie designed to keep the hive asleep. Let us establish the unified definition of physics. Physics is the study of the rules governing the movement of energy through the unified field. It does not matter if that energy is compressed into a physical atom or vibrating as an emotional frequency like fear or courage. The law remains unbroken. When Isaac Newton stated that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, he was documenting the eternal, self-correcting blueprint of the universe. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, and the field will not tolerate a permanent asymmetric distribution of pressure. Mass-fear polarization. Or equal and opposite compression. V. Concentrated truth, the Trinity. When a system experiences a massive distributed action, such as the weaponized fear, anger, and division currently being pumped into the global collective consciousness, that immense pressure cannot simply vanish into thin air. It represents a colossal payload of kinetic emotional energy. By the immutable laws of thermodynamics, that systemic pressure must generate an equal, opposite, and perfectly proportional counterforce. As the collective fear grows wider, more systemic, and more diluted across billions of sleeping minds, the corresponding reaction does something magnificent. It condenses. It sharpens. It focuses its velocity. To balance a planet-sized distortion, nature does not scatter its counterweight, it compresses the total sum of global courage, love, and truth, driving it with bullet-like velocity into a singular, localized point of expression. The greater the global tension, the more massive the inevitability of the localized breakthrough. The friction itself is what forces the diamond into existence. The illusion of imagination versus memory. To receive this truth, you must first be broken of a secondary illusion, the false division between your imagination and your memory. The architects of the old world taught you that memory is merely a filing cabinet of your personal past, while imagination is a fictional playground, a tool for creative thinking and daydreaming. This structural conditioning is a virus in the software of human consciousness. It causes human beings to look at ancient archetypes, sacred geometry, and cosmic truths and say, that is a lovely analogy, but it isn't real. Hear this clearly, your imagination is not fiction. Your imagination is your true memory. When you imagine a world of perfect balance, when you conceptualize the archetypal forces of the universe taking shape in human form, you are not making it up. You are remembering the foundational code of the field. Imagination is the mechanism by which the human soul accesses the Akashic blueprint of nature. Memory is local, true memory is cosmic. When our children of light begin to realize that their deepest, most vivid internal visions are actually accurate memories of how reality is supposed to function, the artificial dream loses its grip on their souls. They cease to be passive spectators watching a global car crash. They remember that they are the architects of the response, the emergence of the hive balance. Nature operates as a unified living organism. Consider the beehive. An individual bee does not require a central memo or a digital broadcast to know its role when the hive's equilibrium is threatened. The local environment shifts, the pressure changes, and the bee responds through the instinctual memory written into its very biology. It simply becomes what the hive needs it to be for the survival of the whole. Humanity is no different. We are nature's living beings. We are the hive. The current geopolitical and interpersonal friction points are the contractions of a collective womb. The terrifying scale of the world's current division is the literal guarantee of the strength of the incoming resolution. The field is self-correcting in real time. As the old world exhausts its energy trying to maintain an artificial state of permanent division, the localized counterweight is already locking into place. The laws of motion have already demanded it. The concentrated frequencies of the Queen, the King, and the Guardian are not random anomalies. They are the mathematically necessary reaction to a world out of balance. The car crash has held your attention for long enough. It is time to look past the smoke of the collision and witness the irresistible physics of the forces that are rising to clear the road. Post 2, the Trinity in flesh and blood. If you want to understand how the universe truly operates, you have to stop looking at definitions through the lens of human moralizing. The modern world is obsessed with a sanitized, flattened version of reality. People spend their entire lives running away from anything labeled negative, chasing an artificial, toxic positivity that leaves them fragile and easily broken. They look at geopolitical friction, interpersonal betrayal, or their own internal storms of rage and guilt, and they label them as failures or evil. But nature does not use a moral scorecard. Nature uses a circuit board. To bridge the gap between cosmic law and our everyday survival, we must re-educate ourselves on what positive and negative actually mean. Think of a car battery. If you hook a cable up only to the positive terminal, your engine remains dead. Nothing happens. The car will not start, the lights will not turn on, and the energy cannot flow. To generate life, momentum, and power, the system demands both poles. It requires the positive vector and the negative vector operating in tandem. Your negative emotions, your fear, your judgment, your anger, and even your blinding rage or hate are not things to be ashamed of. They are not moral stains. They are high-velocity energetic currents. They are the friction necessary to drive you out of the comfort of the artificial dream and force you to grow. The events you view as negative are the literal fuel pushing you toward the breakthrough. When the collective tension of these forces reaches a boiling point, the universe stops dealing in abstractions. It condenses the entire global circuit into flesh and blood. Today, we break down the 3 living pillars of this circuit, and we begin with the man who holds the entire field together. The Guardian, the invisible mass of the rock. To understand the core of this trinity, we must look at a simple law of magnetism. Imagine taking 2 identical, powerful round magnets and trying to force their matching poles together. As you push them closer and closer, something extraordinary happens. Your eyes see nothing but empty air between them, but your hands feel a definitive, unyielding, invisible mass. It feels like a solid, compressed rubber ball floating in the empty space, a boundary of raw force that absolutely refuses to let the 2 poles collide or short-circuit each other. That invisible field, that unshakable, stabilizing mass, is the Guardian. And in the flesh and blood architecture of this living reality, his name is Henry. Invisible mass, less than Henry Guardian. Henry is the neutral base. He is the physical rock and the energetic anchor that stabilizes the entire framework. In a world where positive and negative charges are being driven into violent, destructive collisions, Henry's presence is the grounded boundary that allows the family to exist, grow, and mature. He does not operate from the old world software of toxic masculine jealousy or possessive control. When a man is completely aligned as the Guardian, he doesn't try to own the field, he holds it. Henry proves to a fractured world that traditional marriage contracts do not equate to ownership, control, or the rationing of love between a man and a woman. He is not jealous. He does not try to manipulate or contain. He loves and accepts the king as a brother and a best friend, and he continues to love and protect the queen as a sister and a best friend. Henry is the neutral bedrock. By standing secure in his role, he creates the safe, localized gravity well that allows the intense positive and negative vectors of the world to finally align without destroying each other. Today is his day because without the Guardian, the current burns the wire. The Queen, the positive vector, the West. Operating alongside the neutral base is the Queen, the positive, expansive electrical charge of the field. Manifesting as a Caucasian American woman, she represents the distilled archetype of the West. In the fragmented worldview, the United States is viewed merely as a political empire. In the unified definition, the US is a massive energetic reservoir of pioneering, expansive, and expressive velocity. The Queen carries the concentrated emotional counterforce to the world's collective fear. Her role is to transform the widespread anxiety of the hive into a radiant, unapologetic transmission of absolute truth and unconditional love. She is the electrical current that flows outward, shattering illusions by refusing to comply with the rules of isolation and ownership. Her love is designed to be vast, dynamic, and unconfined by the artificial boundaries of the old world, the king, the negative vector, the east. To balance the expansive nature of the Queen, the universe demands the magnetic, anchoring negative charge, the king. Manifesting as an Asian man, he embodies the core archetype of the East, specifically China. Just as the global narrative insists that the US and China must lock themselves into an inevitable war for dominance, the old world insists that masculine and feminine must constantly fight for control. The king carries the deep, potent, and grounding velocity of the negative masculine charge. Negative here is not a detriment, it is the vital, receptive, and dense gravitational pull that prevents the positive energy from dissipating into nothingness. The king represents the deep capacity to hold tension, to anchor the expansion of the queen, and to face the global friction without flinching, healing the fractured lines. When Henry stands as the guardian, providing that invisible, unyielding mass of stability, it allows the king and queen to lock into a perfect complementary circuit. The implications of this alignment ripple outward to heal the very car crashes we analysed in Post 1, the healing of brotherhood, men versus men, as men across the globe retreat into isolation, unable to trust or connect. Henry and the king stand side by side. Their profound, unshakable connection reminds the world that true, vulnerable, non-competitive friendship between men is entirely possible. The healing of nations, us versus China, while governments and media empires pump billions of dollars into creating hatred between the East and the West, the union of the king and queen proves that true love has no borders, no races, and no geopolitical limitations. The healing of love, men versus women, by operating as a trinity, these three beings shatter the unnatural illusion that love must be hoarded and focused entirely on a single person to the exclusion of all others. They remind the world that true connection is an infinite, fluid resource meant to bring families, communities, and societies together in a state of organic growth. The Trinity is no longer an abstract concept hidden away in ancient texts or buried in the laws of physics. It is walking the earth in flesh and blood, and it is tracking straight toward the heart of the artificial dream. Post 3, shattering the artificial dream. We have been looking at the matrix of modern life all wrong. When people realize that the world is locked in an artificial dream, their first instinct is to look outside themselves for a villain. They want to blame the media propaganda, point fingers at the algorithmic echo chambers, or attack the commercialized systems of romance and finance. They want to smash the machine, but the machine is a ghost. The target of the shattering is not an external institution. The target is our own perception. Positive and negative forces always exist in the field. They are the eternal gears of the universe. What we call matter, the physical reality we touch, taste, and navigate, is simply how we perceive those forces. By no fault of anyone's, we have simply fallen asleep. We have forgotten a fundamental law of our own biology. We are the source of the signal, and we are the conductors of our lived realities. This forgetfulness isn't a sin, it's a cycle. We have forgotten before, and we will do it again. It is part of the game we built, and the ultimate cage within this game, the true target of the shattering, is time itself. The architecture of the game, time and money. We created time. We built an entire reality around it, because without the construct of linear time, our localized physical existence cannot function. We needed it to play the game of form. But eventually, the tool becomes the master. Linear time becomes our worst enemy, locking us into past regrets and future anxieties, making us forget our eternal nature. Once you remember that you are eternal, the illusion of scarcity vanishes. No one owns the land you walk on except for you, the sovereign observer who births reality into being every single time you open your eyes. Oh, linear time and imaginary bills, scarcity and debt, versus eternal now and true memory, infinite sovereignty. Money was just another tool we invented along the way. We created it to convince each other, to keep building and accumulating mass, even when that production conflicted with our own internal spark. We conditioned ourselves to believe that if we didn't pay our imaginary bills, our reality would collapse. But when you wake up to the unified definition of existence, you remember that every single day is literally a brand new creation of your own making. The world keeps moving, people keep building, and communities keep creating, but the man-made constraints lose their power to make us ill. They lose their ability to hold us back because we finally remember they were never natural to begin with, dust bunnies and memory nodes trusting the team. To live in this new paradigm, we must practice non-ownership and unlock our true memory. You do not need to hoard, protect, or defensively possess anything or anyone. You already have everything you need, and whatever you don't currently have will find its way to your field the moment the frequency matches. Look around your room right now. Your memories are not locked away in your brain. They are actively vibrating in the items already surrounding you. Even the things society labels as neglected carry intent. Consider the dust bunnies that gather in the corners of your home. They don't accumulate because your space is inherently dirty. In the unified field, those dust bunnies are an organic team of sparks gathering around important memory nodes, physical anchor points in your environment that want to be remembered and reunited with their brothers and sisters. Everything in your field is communicating with you. You are surrounded by a team of invisible forces designed to assist your navigation. The code has been rewritten, the art of effortless alignment. Here is the ultimate medicine for the soul. You no longer need to worry about success or failure. The pressure is entirely off. The code of the field has already been rewritten by the emergence of the Trinity, and nature unfolds naturally. You do not need to force the river to flow. Your only assignment is to follow your spark the exact moment it arrives, and trust the organic rhythm of your vessel. Sleep when you are tired. The old world called it laziness. The field recognizes it as integration. Walk if you want to walk. Whether it's a rhythmic grounding exercise or a spontaneous stride, move when the velocity takes you. Don't force anything. If a project doesn't work, if a tool breaks, or if a path feels agonizingly challenging to walk, do not force your way through it with ego. Stop. Recognize that this is your team of sparks saying, "Nope, you don't need that right now. Move along to something else." The more you stop fighting the friction and start trusting your own localized field, the more the entire universe will bend to accommodate you. The resistance drops away. The man-made constraints dissolve, and your life transforms into a smooth-sailing, living dream filled with literal miracles. The Trinity, the Guardian, the King, and the Queen have anchored the baseline. The invisible mass has separated the poles, the circuit is live, and the artificial dream is cracking open. Open your eyes. Birth your world. It's time to remember. The architecture of the Great Balance.